to be able to just make a choice on your own and just be able to speak for yourself.
This one's wife. I contacted my dad. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. How's your neck? Have you developed a crick in it as a consequence of observing the activities of this one's wife? It's like being at a tennis match, isn't it? This way, then that way, and then back the other way. Well, it's not over yet, as you know. Initially, this one's wife faced criticism because she failed to respond to the fact that her father was seriously ill. That criticism provides her with fuel because people are talking about her, but it's a threat to control because she's being criticised. We then have Act 1, where she leaked to the press that she'd instructed aides to find out if he was unwell. Unsurprisingly, to anybody with functioning brain cells, that didn't go down particularly well, and it resulted in a further set of challenge fuel being issued to her as people criticised that haughty and grandiose activity. This then prompted Act 2, whereby it was made known through her spokesperson that the suggestion that aides were instructed was a total fabrication and that didn't happen. This was done in order to nullify those threats to control and make it seem as if this one's wife wouldn't be so callous as to behave that way. The problem is that either suggests that a journalist has completely made up lies, one that's known for being pro-Sussex, so that stretches credibility, and also, given the history and behaviours of this one's wife, most people are more likely to believe she would have instructed aides and then leaked that information to the press, as she's well known for such high-handed behaviour, such grandiose behaviour by virtue of her narcissism, and we know that she has a history of leaking information to the press. So that's where we'd got to. The hokey cokey continues. Well, there's another round, as this time it's the turn of People. Yes, that supine publication, as Erin Hill and Simon Perry tell us. This one's wife reaches out to her dad, Thomas Markle, after his emergency leg amputation, spokesperson confirms. So the aides weren't instructed, or rather, the aides were instructed, then they weren't instructed. In actual fact, it turns out this one's wife has reached out to her father, Thomas Markle, following reports that he underwent surgery to amputate his left leg and is currently in intensive care. I can confirm she has reached out to her father, a spokesperson for the Duchess of Sussex tells People. The update comes after Thomas's son, Thomas Markle Jr., told the Daily Mail that the 81-year-old had his leg amputated below the knee on December the 3rd in the Philippines, where the pair have been living since earlier this year, after a blood clot in his thigh reportedly cut off circulation. He described the emergency procedure as life or death, saying his father's foot had turned blue, then black, before doctors determined amputation was necessary. While this one's wife's spokesperson did not provide further details, a source notes that the outreach from this one's wife is very recent, following the reports of her father's medical emergency. People has reached out to Thomas Markle Jr. for comment. Thomas Jr. told the Daily Mail that his father remains in an intensive care ward and that the next 2 or 3 days are critical as doctors monitor for possible infection. It then talks about previous health issues that he has had. So lo and behold, the aides were instructed, then they weren't instructed, and it transpires that in actual fact, this one's wife has reached out to her father. It doesn't say how this has been done, whether she issued a telephone call to the hospital, whether she sent him a text message, "Are you dead yet?" That would probably be more likely from her, hoping that he's gone, and therefore she needn't concern herself with anything that he might say about her. But notice once again, this is all being played out in public. That essentially, this is a man who is her father, and it's understood that he's seriously ill. We know for a fact that he has had previous health problems. They have been evidenced and documented. There does appear to be a degree of mystery about what's truly happening, and there are certain quarters that I've read on the internet that express a degree of cynicism in relation to the suggestion that Thomas Markle is seriously ill, given the grifting that's been engaged in by him and his son previously. However, providing the benefit of the doubt that he is actually in hospital and is unwell, the natural response would be for somebody who was concerned about him to make inquiries, try and contact him, or at least contact the hospital. He's probably not in a position to be speaking, or contact other relatives to find out what's going on, or even get on a plane and fly to the Philippines so you can be there in person, because there is the possibility that he might be on his way out, given his age and the fragility of his health. But instead, what happens, this one's wife ensures that her father's health woes are commandeered by her. Not the first time we've ever seen her try and steal the thunder of somebody else, and it is the despicable behaviour of the narcissist that no matter what it might be, the fact that you have suffered a bereavement, or it's somebody's funeral, or somebody's lost a job, or somebody's in seriously ill health, the narcissist will come along and piggyback those circumstances in order to make it all about them. As I've explained before, you might have a distant relative of Uncle Reginald who throws himself at the coffin. "Oh, Uncle Reggie, how I've always loved you." And the rest of the people there at the funeral are thinking, she's not spoken to him in 8 years, what she's getting so worked up about. But of course, that individual is a narcissist and needs to make it all about them. We're seeing that classic behaviour in relation to this one's wife, whereby, as a consequence of her haphazard cognitive empathy, and the way that it misfires, we have the aides were sent to find out what was going on. Then aides weren't instructed to find out what's going on, and in actual fact, she's reached out, using that awful phrase, to ascertain what's going on. All of this ensures that attention is on her at a time when her father is seriously ill. It once again demonstrates the necessity of playing things out in public, because she needs to do so in order to gather the fuel. It shows a complete lack of accountability for her behaviours, a complete absence of emotional empathy for the way that she is conducting herself, and, perhaps most noticeable of all, the compartmentalisation of the way that her narcissism works, and the focus on in the moment, so that in the first act, it's aides were instructed, second act, aides were not instructed, third act, I've reached out, which then when you stand back from it and look at it in aggregate, it looks utterly inconsistent and causes you to think, what on earth is actually going on? Has she even made any contact at all? Is she just saying these things and having them leaked to the press in order to make her look better and to nullify those threats? Remember, it's entirely conceivable, because she is a narcissist and her father is painted black, that she hasn't contacted him at all or attempted to contact the hospital to find out any information. Why? She doesn't care about him. He is simply an appliance, and a malfunctioning one that she doesn't care about. But what she does care about is the public criticism of her, that she's a bad daughter in the circumstances where he might be on his way out, that he might be approaching his demise. That's what matters more to her, because it threatens her need for control and affects her facade management. So what does her narcissism do? It turns around and says, doesn't matter whether you contact the hospital or not, doesn't matter whether you go there or not. Indeed, going there is an unnecessary expenditure of asset and resources. Instead, just make it seem like you've instructed some aides. Oh no, that didn't work. Well, just tell them that no aides were instructed. Retract that. Make it look like the journalist is the liar. You're still being criticised? Okay, just tell people then that you have reached out to your father. There we are. It doesn't matter that you haven't, as long as you create the impression that you have. And I suspect that she probably hasn't tried to find out any information, because she really doesn't care. She doesn't give a rat's ass about her father. All she cares about is the image that is projected to people, because that's part of the facade management, which leaks into her need for control. What do you think about this saga so far? Give me your thoughts in the comments section. I'm HG Tudor. Don't forget to hype these videos. Thank you for listening.